Hi, boys and girls. So today we are going to focus on some math strategies that are going to help you complete your packet. So today we are focusing on two addition strategies that will help you add correctly. So the first one we're going to focus on is called using partial sums. Now, a lot of us probably haven't heard that word before, but partial sums is just a fancy way of saying break apart. So this is going to help you do math page 9-1, which is page 109. So in order to use this strategy, you must know how to do expanded form. So this is an example of expanded form, and I know you guys did this in second grade. So here I have taken the number 732 and broken it up into hundreds, tens, and ones. So when I'm looking at 732, I recognize that there was a 2 in the ones place. So I'm going to just use my tool here to show you what I'm referring to. So that 2 in the ones place goes with that 2. That 3 represents 3 tens, which is the same as 30. And that 7 represents 7 hundredths. Same thing for 945. The 5 is in the ones place, so that's where that 5 comes from. The 4 is in the tens place, so 4 groups of 10 is 40. And the 9 is in the hundreds place, and 9 hundredths obviously is 900. So in order to use partial sums, this is a strategy or method that you have to know how to do. So let's continue. Okay, so this is shown on the top of the page. What it shows here is just, I'm going to move my picture real quick. There we go. That you can use place value blocks to represent each number. So if you are still at that stage in your math, which is perfectly fine, you can feel free to take the numbers and represent them with the base 10 blocks. For example, the big equation they want you to answer is that 234 and plus 451. So what they did was they showed 234 using these blocks. So I have 2 sets of 100, which represents the 200. I have 3 groups of 10, which represents the 3 in 234. And then I have 4 ones, which represents the 4. So that is one way to do it. If you need that support, draw them out. That's fine. If you do not need that support, this is where you are going to take that number and break it up into hundreds, tens, and ones, just like we did with expanded form. For example, I have 234 plus 451 over here. So the first thing they did was they focused on the hundreds place. They saw 200 and 400, and that is where they got the 600 from. They then moved into the tens place. They saw a 3 and a 5. Well, that really represents 30 and 50. So let me say that again. That 3 and that 5 really represent 30 plus 50. I feel like a lot of times when children are adding, I hear them say, well, that stands for 3 and that stands for 5. And that's actually the biggest no that I hear. It actually represents 30 and 50. And we know that 30 plus 50 equals 80. And then in the ones place, very simple, I can add the 4 and the 1 and I get 5. And then I would take all 3 of those numbers and add them together and get 685. And that is where that whole idea from expanded form really comes into place, because all you're doing is adding the hundreds, tens, and the ones. So let's look at another example of that. So over here on this side, once again, I gave support using the base 10 blocks. So I have 2 numbers here in the equation, 211 and 334. So I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to figure out which model goes with 211. Is it the top one or the bottom one? Okay, so you should have said the top one. This base 10 model here represents 211 because I have the 2 groups of 100, which stand for 200. I have the 1 group of 10, which stands for 10. I have the 1, 1, which stands for the 1. So I can easily see that that goes with 211. So if you needed to use these to add them up, we can easily do that. So I have 211 plus 334. I have let's start with the ones this time. I have 1 1 and 4 ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to move to the tens. 1 10, 3 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're really going to count that as 10, 20, 30, 40. So if I just stop right there, what that means is, let me switch colors here, is that if I just was adding these together, they would equal 45, which they do right here. And now I'm going to the hundreds place. 2 plus 3, which really we know that that is 200 plus 300, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So my answer is 545. Okay, let's do another one. Now for this one here, I have 580 plus 315. This is number 7 in your packet if you do want to follow along. And my apologies, this question that we did over here was number 1. So if you needed to follow along with me to do that, you could have done that. So number 7. So once again, I'm using that break apart to solve this. I'm going to break apart these numbers. So if I am looking at this, the first thing I could do, and you can start with the tens or the hundreds, or the ones, whatever works for you. I am looking at this as 500 and 300. And I know that 500 plus 300 is 800. I am now moving into the tens. I'm going to change colors. I have the 8 in the tens place represents 80. The 1 in the tens place represents 10. 80 plus 10 is 90. I am then going to move on to the ones place. I'm going to switch colors. The 0 and the 5, that's simple adding, we know equals 5. And then when I add them all up, it looks just like expanded form. 800 plus 90 plus 5 equals 895. So the other way to add, and this is probably the way that most third graders are used to or comfortable with, but like I said, you do whatever works for you. This is all about adding with regrouping. So instead of writing out the hundreds, the tens, and the ones, we are now shifting to using more of that standard algorithm, that regular equation. So I really like this model here because it really shows you the regrouping. So for example, they're starting with the ones. We have the number 528 plus 375, and I love how they color coded it. Makes it so much easier to read. So we're starting with the ones. Here's the ones place. We have 8 ones right there, plus 5 ones is 13 ones. Now, I cannot put the number 13 in the ones place because really 13 ones is the same as 1, 10, and 3 ones. So I keep that 3 in the ones place, but then I take that 10 and I give it to the tens place. I just shifted it over. So now I can add these up, just as shown here in the blue or that purplish color. I have 1 10, that one that I moved over, 2 tens, 7 tens equals 10 tens. But once again, I can't put 10 tens under here. So really, 10 tens is the same as 100 and 0 tens. And if you don't believe me, watch this. If I count by 10 times, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So it's the same thing. So I'm going to leave that 0 because now there's 0 tens, and now I have to give that 100 to the hundreds place. And now I can easily add up those hundreds. I have 100, 500, 300, which equals 900. So really, when I look at this, the answer is 903. This model here and the way that it's color coded really can help you out and support you. So if you ever get stuck, this would be a really good model to come back to. And this is really going to help you do page 111. It shows right on the bottom and up top it is 9-2. So moving forward, Here is another example that we are going to do, and I left the model here for you, just like it is in the math page on question number 1, in case you still need those models, but we are well aware that some of you might not. So when I'm looking at this, when I'm looking at the equation 345 plus 276, feel free to draw those models out. No problem at all. So I'm going to start with the ones. I have 5 and 6, and I am aware that some of you already know those facts. You know what 5 plus 6 is. That's fabulous. But some of us might need to count these ones up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We are in kind of a situation that we were in on this page. We have 11 ones. That had 13 ones. So I have to do some regrouping. So I have 11 ones, and I'm going to put an O here, which really is the same as what? I'm going to give you about 5 seconds. So you should have said that 11 ones is the same as 1, 10, and 1, 1. 10 plus 11 should have 10 plus 1, equals that 11. So I would come down here, put that 1 there for the ones place, and give that 110 to the tens place. Okay, so now we have our tens we're adding. We have 110, 410, 4 tens, and 7 tens, which should equal 12. So we're in another predicament, another situation. We have 12 tens. So we know that we are going to have to do, once again, some regrouping. So we would keep the 2 tens in the tens place and give that 100 to the hundreds. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. So our answer should be 621 for this one. Okay, so for number 3 here, I have taken away the models. So I've taken away the model. So I would like you to take some time to solve this, and I'm just going to give you some thinking time. And what I'd like you to do is just focus on the ones. Let's just focus on adding 8 ones and 6 ones. And feel free, if you need to come over to the side like I'm doing and do some work, that's fine. Feel free. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed if you need to make those dots. If you need to make 8 dots, go for it, just like I'm doing. Okay, I'll give you some time to figure that out. Okay, so you should have gotten 14 ones. And we know we can't put 14 here. So once again, we have to take that 14 and break it up into tens and ones. So that should have given you 4 ones. And what do I do with that 10? That 10 goes with the tens. I move it over. I'm regrouping that 14 into 1 10 and 4 ones. And now I have a 1, and a 4. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. Or you could have looked at it as 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. Oh, that's wonderful. There's no regrouping for this one. No regrouping. Easy peasy. So your answer should have been 264. And that is it. Easy. I know you guys will have no problems with this one. So let me just quickly review one more time. So the 2 strategies that you should be working on to do this. The first one is using that expanded form, breaking apart those 3-digit numbers into hundreds, tens, and ones before you add them together. And the other strategy is probably the one that we are most comfortable with, is regrouping. All right, so have fun with this. I hope that my video helped you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.